Continuing with our exploration of deep order, I'd like to begin to look at the mathematics in deep order. So far what we've looked at, we started off with this notion of an implicit order in time and space, and from that implicit order in time and space, we arrived at a universal model of organizational development that we represented as emerging from fullness in space and going through a trajectory of development which culminates in some aspect of that fullness coming forward. And from this universal model of organizational development, what we did is we derived a number of different models, possible models of organizational development, of personality development, of leadership development, and we also arrived at a general framework for change. So in a sense, what we've done over the last few months is begin to piece together the foundation for a unified theory of organizational development. So what we are piecing together is a unified theory of organizational development. And now naturally what I'd like to do is go back to the pieces that we explored, but from a more mathematical perspective. So our starting point a few months ago was basically the observation that there is a universal pattern regardless of area of the world, regardless of region, regardless of industry, regardless of size, that goes through the same phases of development over time, through time. And what this suggests is the implicit order in time. So what we see is three phases: the physical, vital, mental, that quite simply is summarized by the growth of a seed into a flower, where we have the physical relating to the seed, or this notion of, or orientation of maintaining the status quo, the vital, this orientation of an aggressive growth, and the mental, which is the orientation of bringing purpose forward and of a true curiosity that leads to sustainable development. Now, so what we have here is this implicit order in time, and I would represent that by a function, and I'm going to call this, say, a function of sustainability. So, and I'm going to hypothesize that this sustainability, this thing called sustainability, is really a function of a shifting orientation, and this shifting orientation is where the physical orientation yields to the vital orientation, which yields to the mental orientation. Or more simply put, we could say that sustainability is a function of the mental orientation leading. Now, in any organization, there's always going to be all three components, there's going to be all three orientations, but what we're hypothesizing is that if we are going to have sustainability, so if an organization is going to progress sustainably, it has to be a function of this mental orientation that's leading. And so I would represent that simply as function of ML in this manner. Now similarly, I'll also hypothesize that if we have stagnation, then using the same kind of symbols, I would say that that is a function of the physical orientation leading. So remember, a physical orientation is where we're maintaining the status quo, looking back to yesterday, seeing what made us successful yesterday, and assuming that that's the same thing that is going to continue to make us successful today. So stagnation would be a function of the physical leading. And similarly, I would also hypothesize another function, entropy, for example, or randomness, that I would say is a function of the vital orientation leading. And here, remember that the vital orientation leading means that there's a lot of assertiveness. In the case of a seed growing into a flower, there's a root system that's created, a stalk system, and there's a lot of rapid growth. But it could be in any direction, and often it could be self-defeating. And so if left to itself, it's going to result in entropy and a waste of a lot of energy, if you will, unless it migrates into a mental orientation. So just very succinctly saying, coming up with these base functions, if you will, some basic functions, we can say that sustainability is a function of the mental leading, stagnation is a function of the physical leading, and entropy or randomness is a function of the vital leading.